point, I am trying to advise my people that have come to me to do immediate system modifications. We are able to do that. We see how it's trending. We see it's down at about 40 feet. The deeper wells do not contain as much, if any, radium-226. So we are here to help anyone that needs it, and we would like to speak with you after the meeting if we could.
Thank you. We'll move to this side.
Hi. My name is Erin Brockovich. I'm new to the community. I rented for 2 years, and I just purchased a house in March of '09. And like everyone else who lives in the community, I just got my property tax bill. And I'm wondering if your firm is going to be working with the county to give us some financial relief. Because right now I couldn't give the keys to my house away if I wanted to. So I know you said selling my house is not an option right now for I don't think anyone in this room. I have seen all the real estate signs go down in our neighborhood. I looked for a house for a year and a half, and it was signs on every block. There are no more because we can't do anything with our homes. So if we did sign with you, are you looking to provide financial relief with the county, as we have pretty much useless properties right now?
I think that's an important question, and I'm going to give you the straightest answer I can. Our contract and the types of lawyers that we are in terms of helping a community seek redress for contamination focuses on recovery for damages to your property, not tax relief. I want to be real clear about that. We're not tax certiorari lawyers. We're not contemplating that lawsuit. However, our efforts often can dovetail with efforts to seek tax relief.
Okay.
So while our offer to engage clients is not specific to that legal problem, often our work helps indirectly in those efforts.
Okay, thank you.
And let me supplement that response just a little bit by telling you that obviously it is a widespread and common problem. And one thing we can and would do is to assist our clients in making sure that they got proper representation to address that issue. Even though it's not within the scope of our responsibility, we would make sure they got directed properly so that they got legal assistance to address that issue.
Okay, and I know you said one question, but I'm going to break the rule. Have you contacted the Water System Council, which is a nonprofit national organization for people who live on well water?
No.
I would just like to see that happen because they have experts in the field, and that's who I've been talking to for my property right now. They don't have all the answers, but I just like to see you guys get in touch with them.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bill Love. I'm the environmental chemistry teacher at FAU main campus. I've got 3 hats. That of the environmental chemist. I am a cancer survivor. It has nothing to do with the acreage. It has more to do with mosquito spray in the 1950s. And also a councilman in Waxahachie Grove, so I live right there in the heart of this all. A couple of quick things. The county health department's got a very good thing on radium on their website, except they state that radium is laid down in the agencies. It was the, radium, it was the uranium. This is a breakdown product of uranium. This is a completely natural system. There's definite hot spots and low spots throughout any carbonate environment. And Florida is nothing except a huge limestone base. It's got a lot of uranium that's been co-precipitated with calcium and magnesium carbonates. Southwest Florida has got a large problem with radium in there as well. The woman that spoke before me at this microphone made some good points. This is completely handleable. They make special water softeners that will take care of uranium and the rest of the nuclides in that breakdown series. You probably ought to contact USGS. They've got a ton of information on our aquifers out here. And one other thing I really want to stress is, Waxahachie Grove, our lowest legal area right now is 1 unit and 5 acres. That's quite handleable for a pretty built out at 1 and 1 1/4. It's very, very difficult to get your wells away from your septic tanks. Think about what you flush down the toilet. Don't get rid of your drugs down there. Don't get rid of your solvents. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tariq. I live in Acreage. I have a two-fold question, again breaking the rule. Looking at your questionnaire, I don't see anything. Is it possible to put in your questionnaire to put these points that if the residents are drinking those waters, and what kind of filtration system are they using, how often they do the chlorination, and what could be the best filtration system which could help the community at large? And the second question is maybe a help from Erin, that I'm trying to get in touch with the environmental department of Florida Atlantic University. Is there a way we can get some grants so that we can combine our resources and have a graduate student from Florida Atlantic University and give them this project so they can work full-time and get some answers and get some detailed studies? Is there any agencies I can approach for grants? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good point, and I've had several universities from the area and students with their masters offering to work and come door to door and start ascertaining information and doing their own studies. So that is something that I've shared with Weitz Luxemberg, and absolutely we would look into and encourage them to be a part of the process.
Thank you. Let me just quickly respond to your first issue about the filtration system information. We haven't included that in the questionnaire that we have out on the floor this evening, but it's a fair point, and it may be something that we will come back to the community and say that information would be helpful. We'll consider that.
Because there are, everybody, this is the first time I'm attending the meeting, because whenever we talk to anybody, everybody's first question is that, are you drinking that water? What kind of water are you drinking? So we need to probably find out a common denominator where the illnesses are occurring, what kind of water they are using. Are they using for taking showers? Are they drinking their water off the well after the filtration system? So these things, these are different parameters which needs to be looked at and studied in detail.
Thank you.
Excuse me for jumping back in, but I'm on the environmental science program as well, so I'd be glad to help you interface with graduate students. And unfortunately, we're not in the habit of giving grants, we're looking for them. But maybe we can contact something with Dr. Lynn at the Center for Environmental Studies. So I'll leave my card with you and you can contact.
Thank you. And as I said, we've been approached with that, and it could be very helpful. Something I wanted to interject here earlier, somebody was talking about the property taxes. And we have a situation on a terrible hexamount-growing contamination down in Texas, and it is bad. And the community came out in force, and they wanted their property values adjusted in taxes. And they went in force to the county, and they actually got it. So having all of you here tonight and hearing that, and I can see that it's going to be a wish of all of you, that your voices as one can go a long way through city council and your county, and potentially the same thing could happen here that happened in Texas. And they did give them a reduction in taxes because of the contamination, and they were all on their own well water as well.
We had the same thing in a case in Ohio, I should tell you, where the community got together and went to the local tax assessor and the county and said, you're overtaxing us. You all know you have this problem, that the landfill is lowering our property values tremendously, and they lowered the taxes. They did it collectively, large group of people working together, much like in Midland. And really, that type of community effort can frequently do that without any kind of litigation.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Michelle Powell. I've been out in the Acreage for about 7 years, and my prayers go out to all the families, I have to say, for everything that's going on. I'm just curious, I haven't seen anything other than brain tumors and other sorts of cancer. What other ailments are maybe contributing to what's going on with this, with the water being infected possibly, or what's going on? I haven't seen anything further into that. Is there anything further that you can share?
Well, we both got, I mean, you know, emails come in to both of us, but leukemia is one thing. So, you know, it isn't, obviously the brain cancers and the brain tumors have been brought to everyone's attention, but leukemia is as well. And, you know, it's important as a community to be out. Don't be afraid of these questionnaires, to just say what you see. Don't worry about someone thinking you're stupid or judging anything, because that is not what's going on. I said earlier, no story can be left untold. Tell us what's going on with your animals. It's very important.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same thing, like animals that see tumors and epilepsy, like seizure disorders and stuff like that. I'm just curious if this
It's
also
very
can be
important.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
share the information with us, even if your vegetation is dying, or trees aren't growing, or rose gardens aren't making it, and animals that are having tumors. You know, I've heard these stories before, and they are telling us the story, so it's really very important.
One specific, just really quickly, one specific series of illnesses that we have started to see, in addition to some leukemia, is hypothyroidism or other thyroid disorders. Generally, depressed thyroid. And that is something we are looking at. So if any of you are dealing with any of those medical issues, particularly, I urge everyone, but that's something that would be very useful to see kind of how prevalent it is. So that information is very helpful.
Thank you.
If I could ask all of you tonight as a whole, and sometimes communities are uncomfortable doing it, other times they're not, and I hope that you're comfortable. If I asked you, as you're all sitting here tonight, those of you who know of someone that has a brain tumor, brain cancer, a blood cancer, a thyroid problem, or animals with cancer, if I asked you to raise your hands, would you?
Yes.
I want you all to look around. I want you all to look around the room. You're not alone. So stick by each other.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Karen, and I lived out in the Acreage for about 13 years. I've lived in Florida for over 30 years. And I like when you said speak up and ask for the truth and share information, and I'm really kind of here to do that. I've worked as a law librarian for many years. So as soon as this issue came up, I went ahead and did a lot of research myself. I lived in Broward for many years, just like the Dunsfords, and I remember that there was a lawsuit and an issue that went from Broward in the late 80s to the mid-90s into Broward and into Boca Raton. Sandy Shores, or I have the article I can give you, but essentially it concerns the power lines, and there was an actual suit against FP&L because of the electromagnetic fields, and that there was a high incidence and a cluster of tumors around us, particularly children. And it was underneath a school, and there was quite a bit of lawsuit about it. And they did move the children away from it, and it kind of fizzled out. And the last article that was really written on it was late in '95. I'm wondering why you're not investigating these other possibilities, particularly since you're finding a certain amount of radiation in the groundwater, and why you're just assuming it that it's just dumping in the water.
Let me see if I can help. EMFs are a type of radiation for which there is some evidence that links them to brain tumors and some cancers. That link was first really developed in Scandinavia, Sweden, so were some of the studies, and they have some validity. We've considered EMFs. We would continue to consider EMFs. But the power lines in this community are generally in fairly discrete and defined areas. That is the high tension lines. And And based on the information we have, there's just, as a preliminary basis, there's not a good correlation between the location of people with illness.
Actually,
and
I disagree with you because those high EMF lines actually pass through Orange Drive diagonally. You go all the way from State Road 7 extension all the way out through to where the Dunsbergs, and I say those are the people that first initiated this. And right in that whole area, those are the widest and the largest power lines. And those are similar to the ones that were also pointed out in Broward. Not ironically, we all lived in that area of Broward at that time in the 80s, and the same thing, these high tension wires were there at the time, and it was actually Sandpiper Shores in Boca Raton.
Okay.
It was the actual school.
Right. I appreciate the information, and let me say, we haven't ruled anything out, really. This investigation is ongoing, and as I stated kind of back in August, the approach we've used is to look at the kinds of exposures environmentally that could cause these problems, and then start kind of looking at each one and focus until we think, where do the facts and what is the evidence support? So we've considered it, we continue to consider it, and I appreciate your input on it.
One of the things, you're not the same firm, you're not Mastery but Toto. That was the original firm that did the Hinkley, Texas. You're not the same firm. You're not
We are not, no. Thank you.
We have a daughter who's 17 years old who was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, papillary thyroid cancer. It's very specific cancer to radiation. She's 17, has had 2 x-rays her whole life. There's no way that she could get it from being its exposure to radiation. And we live out in the Waxahachie, we have horses. Our dog died out there with cancer as soon as about 2 years after we brought him out. It was a lab, it was in the water. Our mother-in-law has stage 4 colon cancer that we didn't attribute to anything, and we probably still don't. But our 17-year-old daughter, we absolutely do. We have a 16-year-old, and I didn't believe any of this stuff initially. I really didn't. We're both paramedics, we're both very scientific. But I'm afraid to keep my kids there right now. It's just, and it's a shame. We really do need to come up with some answers. We love it there. We really do. But it's been very scary. My daughter's going to be okay. We are on an oncology floor when she had surgery, and now she feels such a strong cause that she's going to go volunteer there. And it's a kick in the stomach for anybody who's got family members with cancer. It's been really tough. And she's going to be okay. I can't even imagine these other people. So we just wanted to let you know we do have issues. We do have family members with cancer, and I don't know what to tell people. I don't know what to say. We need to find out. I just don't want to expose our 16-year-old to it too.
It is very scary when water is contaminated because we don't realize, or we take for granted how much we use water for everything, and in many of these communities. And it's important that you know what could be potentially going on. So if people tend to have a lump, on the side of their neck, sometimes they think it's a cold, they tend to pass it off, get checked. That prevention is important. And not to scare everyone, but obviously you're concerned about the water. We're concerned about the water. You can option to drink more bottled water. If it's concern, pardon me?
We pay for the city water.
We're one of the
Okay.
ones we live on 140. They brought the lines down, and as soon as we were able to tap into them, we did tap into them. We have always drank bottled water. We never drank the water. We've showered from it. We cooked with bottled water. But when they said that from the misting of the water,
Right.
that she could have been exposed. But there are other types of cancers out there, and that's what we want everybody to be aware of. There are other types out there. It's not just brain tumors, it's not brain cancer.
That's correct.
There are other things out there, like you stated, leukemia. Another one of our firefighter friends, his daughter has leukemia. So there is something going on out there.
And it's important, if you are using wells, I've seen this in many other instances, swimming in water, swimming pools that have been filled up with well water, aeration. That's clearly an exposure pathway. That can be a very dangerous exposure pathway. So if you are on your own wells, you can limit and monitor, possibly not swim, monitor your showers, your time in your showers, what you're cooking with, and bottled water.
That's important, time and exposure with the radiation especially.
Thank you for
bringing
sharing.
it up.
Hi, yes, my name is Sharon Rose, and I want to thank you very much for addressing our concerns in the Acreage. I have an 11-year-old son. I've lived in the Acreage for 12 years. He came down with a very, very, very rare cancer-like disease called histiocytosis. And it has damaged his lungs severely. He went on the chemo treatment, and he was in remission for about a year, but now it's back again. So they're probably going to have to give him some aggressive chemo at this point. My question to you is, I've been listening to you. I know the focus right now is on the brain tumors, but how seriously are you going to be focusing on the other kinds of cancer?
Seriously, it's important. So these types of cancers, the thyroid, the leukemia, it is absolutely important. So please put that in your form. Please let us know. Call, email. It's very important.
I mean, this cancer is so rare. It's only like 1 in 200,000 people that has it. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, with the radiation level in the water, does it affect you differently if you drink it versus bathing in it versus washing your clothes in it, washing your dishes? I mean, does it affect you differently if you should ingest it versus just bathing, showering?
Well, bathing and showering is clearly an exposure pathway as ingestion. So you have dermal absorption, soaking in a bathtub, swimming, showering. Showering becomes an inhalation, and then ingestion. So all three of those exposure pathways do clearly affect you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I just say, I'm sorry about your son, and I am sure the community, as my thoughts and prayers are with you, and to find the strength and courage to get through another day.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sherry Roberts. I've lived in Acreage for 5 years. There are many reasons why I need this not to be true. I have a 15-month-old, 3.5-year-old, and a 12.5-year-old. And I built my dream house here. And I'm a realtor in the Acreage. And people are buying still. I know people that unfortunately has happened to, and is very skeptical because it can't be true. Well, now that I'm finding out that it is, Ms. Brockovich mentioned something, and I've heard from the studies also. If the acceptable level of the, the pico things were 5, they didn't tell you if you were 3.5, a 4, a 4.5, a 4.9. And Ms. Brockovich said, what is an acceptable level of radiation? So, okay, so my well only gives 2.5, so my family will get cancer in 15 years instead of 3, instead of 10. I also, I'm a Long Island girl, but I moved to the Acreage knowing I was going to have well and septic, and I thought it was kind of cool, and I made sure that I was off 2 unpaved roads because I wanted to really get the feel of the Acreage. I don't want people to force me to have water, but again, it stains my clothes, my toilets, my everything. Okay. Why don't we just get water? Why should we, again, I don't want to pay $20,000 for water. I don't want to, when I go sell my house, the county say, well, you owe us the remaining $15,000. But instead of finding out how much radiation is too much, or this kind of radiation will cause this cancer, why don't we just nip it in the bud, get the water, and then figure out who caused it and all that afterwards? Why? It's going to take, there's 15,000 18,000 homes and 18,000 lots in Acreage, it's going to take them a year or two to decide to bring the water. To bring it to us will be 5 years. Meanwhile, we're all accumulating this radiation, and no one's told us what we can do in the interim. I mean, and God forbid, if something happens to my family, it's my fault. From today on, because I know about it.
Yes, exactly.
The other mothers and people did not know about it. They were not informed. It wasn't their fault. But now, what do I do? And when can we get water for those of us who want the water?
Questions that you're asking are excellent questions. And by and large, they're not legal questions, they're political questions. They're very good. They're very good political questions. What we can do to help you is to provide the kind of information that gives you political ammunition. And once you have that political ammunition, this group has the power to compel those kinds of changes. So we can provide some help in that regard, even though it isn't the direct focus of our efforts. We hope to provide you the kinds of answers that will give you the
protection. We need to be protected between now and then. If this is a cumulative thing, we need to stop it now before, we don't have 5 years to wait.
It's very true, and they're very valid points. And a lot of times when we get involved in situations like this, latency periods have run, and that's why we suddenly start seeing an onslaught of cancers. And there are children here who are young, which is lending its hand that there is a current scenario going on as well. And just as your community and activists and moms started looking into what cancers were and bringing up this issue that led to searching for contaminated water or contamination in the air or soil, you can do the exact same thing as a community to start petitions, start getting in touch with each other, to getting to your city council, to getting to these agencies that can get you water, demanding they get you water. And as we've done in the cancer search, you can do the exact same thing. So all of you, I can clearly see it here tonight. Start getting out in your communities, signing petitions, getting in front of city councils, getting to your county, and making your voices be heard. Now you have the information, now make sure they hear you. And you can do that.
And once we get this, we're stigmatized in Acreage now. I mean, I have to have someone sign a disclosure saying, by the way, there's a possibility of a cancer cluster when you buy this house and you're bringing a brand new baby here, you have to sign this paper. I mean, okay, yeah, move in. If we eradicate the problem, we can release the stigma and our property values can go up again. And people don't even remember what happened in Port St. Lucie 10 years ago, or they'll forget about it. And then we can go back and get our property values back.
We're behind you 100%, and we're here to help you facilitate and move that forward along, and you would probably be a really good community leader for that issue.
What is the maximum amount of money that should be spent to clean up this area? I mean, of course it's going to cost money. I mean, if all the houses together are worth, X, if we spend Y to clean it up, is it just cheaper and easier to move people? I mean, South Florida is huge. And, yes, it is a great area to live in, but is it just easier to move people?
And it does sometimes happen. In the situation in Hinkley, California that the movie was about, they were able to look at the plume, the numbers of homes, and make a decision to ultimately buy them out and move everybody. And as you get forward into a litigation, that will be taken into consideration. And it's an excellent question, and it's a daunting and it's a really big one. I mean, to come in and buy out all the homes. So this is where it's important for you as individuals to make decisions on how you handle certain things. But that does come into consideration. But you're right, it's a big number. It's a lot of homes. And it's not going to be as easy as where you have communities that have a delineated plume and we know exactly where it is and it isn't, and the numbers of homes are not in the thousands.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leanne Reed. I live in the Acreage for 5 years now, and you mentioned earlier that radio 226 and 228 are natural occurrences, but I have a question as to why you have on your questionnaire about Pratt Whitney if you work there.
There are a couple reasons for that. When we began the investigation in the community, a number of people said that there had been historic instances of the disposal of chemicals, including potential radioactive materials. And we thought it was important to speak to people who knew what went on at that facility. And that's why it's there. We're not pointing a finger at Pratt Whitney, but like other possible explanations or other possible factors, we're trying to keep an open mind and see what path, what stone the answer lies under, and that was identified as a potential one, and that's why it's there.
You said it was, so is it no longer identified?
No, it still is. I'm sorry, that was why it was originally there. We have not ruled out Pratt Whitney. We really have not ruled out a source at all. We're trying to keep an open mind. It is a relatively close, very large industrial facility, and we need to understand, is it a factor, is it not? So that's why it was there then, that's why it's still there now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my concern is my husband works for Pratt Whitney, so not only do I live in the Acreage, that's my livelihood right there. And so absolutely, I'd like to know if that's part of this, and he comes over every day with those chemicals on him, so.
That's why it's there. Again, we're trying to understand what could be behind this radioactivity.
Okay.
We also don't do divorce work.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you for being here with us tonight. 18 months ago, my husband and I bought our first home. We put everything we had into the house. We have 3 children. One of the occupants of the home died of brain cancer during the closing. Because there's nobody currently living in the home that has said, I can't get answers about whether or not we need to be concerned about our children. If we sign the client form in the packet tonight, will you help us get some answers?
Yes, we will do whatever we can with the information we have or can obtain to help you get answers so that you can make a decision. And it's usually intensely personal decision that each family has to make based on the best information they can that they can obtain. And so the answer directly is yes. I think we can provide you material information to help you with making what's clearly a terrible decision. I don't want to make light of that. We can't make that decision for you, but we can help you understand legal issues, and we can provide you with information that we think will help you make the best decision you can in the circumstances. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sherry Nelson. I've lived in the Acreage for 6 years now. I have 4 kids growing up in Acreage, 15, 12, 11, and 3.5. 2 of them go to Western Pines Middle School, 1 that goes to Seminole Ridge. In the first testing of the water at Western Pines, the levels for arsenic were just under what was considered not allowable. My question is how concerned I need to be with my children going to that school.
I think I have an ample answer that should help you. The testing that was done at that school of water was not the potable water used by the school. It was a groundwater sample that was taken basically with a drill and auger in the yard, and they extracted the groundwater and tested it. So that's what's down there at that location, but it's not the water that is being drunk, I think that's the right word, by the kids at the schools.
Okay. I just have one small question. At Seminole Ridge High School, when there was a water meeting on whether to go on city water, somebody came up to the podium and said, that they had been spraying Radium 228, I believe it was, on the orange groves that were located there prior to the school being built. And my question, I guess, is I haven't been able to find any documentation that backs that up. And I'm just wondering if you have any information on whether that is accurate or not.
I have read some press accounts that state that that was the practice, and my understanding is that that practice is being, in essence, reevaluated. I can't say that we have a lot of information about is that presenting some risk to neighbors and people in the community. Clearly, it's not an environmentally sound practice to, in essence, use the concentrated rinse water. Because what it essentially is that water system, being a public provider of water, filters the water with reverse osmosis technology, and then periodically they basically have to backflush it. And the practice, apparently, as I understand it from the accounts, was that they then use that water for irrigation. The DEP tested some of that water, so you can find some data in the DEP report.
When they built it?
No, of the actual backwash water. And it has quite high levels of radium and gross alpha in it. So I think that's an area where the community also should demand some answers, because the practice was identified, DEP tested that water, found high levels of radiation in it, and the question is, given the land application of that, what is its effect? So I think that's an area that further information needs to be gathered to, to fill in that question. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, my name is Leslie. I've only been in Acreage for a year. However, my daughter and I are already experiencing some bad headaches. We wake up with headaches every morning. But that's not what I wanted to ask you. I am sorry that I did not have, this is my first time attending one of these meetings, because what I wanted to ask you, has it been brought to your attention that the county not only sprayed with vehicles along the road, but that they also had airplanes that would fly over and spray? One of my neighbors, one of my friends, about a year ago, when she woke up and there was this yellow powdery ash all over the vehicles and the yards in her house, she called 911 and the county came out in anthrax suits. I don't know if you've been told that they actually spray out there with airplanes. So the pesticide doesn't just come, or the chemicals doesn't just come from vehicles. They have the vehicles that come on the road and spray at least once a week, but they were spraying with airplanes about twice a month, and it would always leave a yellow fine powdery ash. So what I'm asking is, there any way you can ask the county for a sample of what they spray so it can be analyzed? Can you also get the patterns that the airplanes took and the areas that they sprayed and the degree of spraying that they did? Because, I'm 53 and the good Lord said 70, I'd like to live these next 17 years.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is William Garland. I've lived in Waxahachie for about 13 years. All three of my children have been conceived and born in the acreage. Of the three of them, two of them were born with health issues. My twofold question. I hear a lot of people talking about cancer and brain cancer and things like that. Now, when you have such a diverse community, cultural community with different genetic origins, does the radium or the different contaminants have the possibility of affecting different people in different ways? I know my daughter was born with a cyst on her lung. 1 in 10,000 people would get it. Okay. That's the one question I have there.
Well, I think the answer directly to your question is yes. Contaminants, poisons, harmful substances affect people differently. Some people are very resistant to, that's why some people worked in lead factories for years and seem very sharp and fine, whereas other people, we now understand, lead is a very strong neurotoxin. So there is a lot of variability in response to an environmental assault. Absolutely. And it can trigger different responses in different people. So I think the answer is yes.
Very good, thank you. My second question is, I moved out here 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I built houses during the housing boom out here. You're talking about the spraying that's going on in the orange groves, or that was going on, and the contaminants that they have out there. A lot of the houses that were built out here were built using fill, what they consider good, clean fill that came out of the orange groves. Okay, is that a possibility? I mean, I'm not a chemist, but the rainwater filtering down through the landfill into the water systems.
It is a possibility, and it's something we've looked at and considered, and would continue to. A lot of helpful and relevant information on that question, again, given a very limited sample size by testing the water in 50 homes that DEP performed. They looked for a very wide array of pesticides in the water and found some in some locations. Again, pesticide exposure at low levels can be problematic, but we didn't see kind of high levels of pesticides on any widespread basis in the 50 homes. So is it something I can say, no, not a factor? Unfortunately, it's not, but it doesn't look like it is a significant factor through the community.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
My name is Sal Sorella. Lived in the Acreage for 10 years. Heart goes out to everyone, all the families that have cancer, and thank you for being here. Ms. Brockovich mentioned anything that might be helpful. I'll make it short and sweet. We've had a next-door neighbor that died of cancer a couple of years ago. In the last few years, we've had 2 animals, 2 German Shepherds, and my wife takes great care of the animals, unbelievable. And they both died prematurely. And then recently, we just had a cat. This is nothing compared to the children and everything, but if it's helpful, the cat, we just brought it in to the vet. And our veterinarian, he's the vet for the Palm Beach Zoo, Dr. Zeitman, and he was also director of the Palm Beach Zoo. And when my wife brought the cat in recently, he said that he would speak to anyone about it because he said, I don't know if I had this right, but he said it's mangiocarcinoma. And he said that the odds on the animals having that, 2 dogs and a cat, he said it was so ridiculous that he would speak to anyone for it. And he's a pretty recognizable figure in our community. So if that helps in any way, that's it.
It does.
It does.
Thank you.
My name is Weitz, and actually my husband is one of the people that had a brain tumor. He actually had the surgery in January, and we're still kind of battling everything out. My question is, from your previous cases in areas like this, how long does it take to get from point A to B to C to D, so that we know that when you mentioned that some of the bodies has to be moved, how long will it take? How long? Well, I know you don't know exactly, but more or less, are we looking at 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Every case that I've been involved in varies. Some of them move very quickly. I've seen it. People get results and homes bought out or water brought in or some change in 3 to 4 years. Sometimes I've seen it drag out 8, 9. But I do know the more vocal the community is in demanding changes, the quicker it can come. The litigation process can drag out, and unfortunately, for a while, that's certainly not what we're pushing for, nor do we ever do that. It's easier and better for everybody to resolve it as quickly as possible. But that's a difficult question to answer. The more you talk, the more this community talks, the more you might see responses for water brought into you, your taxes lowered, and we'll quickly look for answers, but be very vigilant in the meantime. And be protective of your husband's health, but that's hard to answer. It could be 2 years, 1 year. Listen, I'm working on a terrible homesick situation in Midland, Texas, and I've seen the results happen in a matter of months.
I just asked because I know that people, when you mentioned this, especially people that don't live in the acreage, they're like, oh my God, what are you still doing there? Like, I would have moved, I would be living under a making a mistake potentially by being here. Am I making myself sick? Is my husband going to continue to be sick because of being here? So there's so many questions that, unfortunately, we need some of these answers kind of quickly so that we can all make decisions as to, okay, then you know what, we may as well go live under the bridge because living here is going to make us sicker.
And we couldn't agree with you more, and we are working as fast as we can to try to get you those answers. And I know it's frustrating. Like I said earlier, I've seen communities just, kicking walls out of frustration. We're working quickly to provide that information with you. And again, I'm going to bring this up again. The more you know, now you're aware, you'll begin to make different choices and better choices to safeguard and protect yourself in that interim. It's an unfair system. My heart bleeds for these communities. You're caught in a system of agencies and industry and attorneys, and there you sit all the while, and you're like sitting ducks, and I know that feeling. So this is why everything we're saying to you, pay attention, change your water habits, get to doctors sooner. I'm very sorry about your husband. And start making different choices based on the information that we are giving you to better protect yourself. And you're right, it's not that easy to just up and move. And it's not that easy for people who've lived in their homes forever and they don't want to just up and move. Those are their homes. That's all of our apartments is our homes. And it's a difficult place to be in. We understand that. We will do everything to get you answers quickly. And in the meantime, you choose wisely, pay attention, and safeguard yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. We're approaching 9 o'clock, so I don't want to cut anybody off, but I think we're going to need to close the questions to the people that are standing now. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Bob Townsend. I've lived in Acreage for 30 years. My wife and myself have raised 9 kids out there. Bring up 2 points or 2 statements. One is in regards to the statistical data. I was diagnosed with a rare eye cancer, and it's usually about 5 in 1 million. From what I understand, there's 3 of us out just in the Acreage, which is pretty. I don't know what the time frame is on the other folks, but that's an anomaly in that. And the other I'd like to speak about it. You only spoke briefly about the EMFs, but we used to live underneath those big power lines out there when we first moved out, and we always had problems with our horses getting shocked. We buy the horses, we buy the rope hoppers for the kids. In about 6 months' time, they'd be lunatics. And we always thought the way the kids would treat for handling. What was happening is, we found subsequent to that, when it would rain, they would be trapped in there and get shocked. So then we were having problems in the house where actually you can touch a water pipe, sometimes you get shocked, sometimes you wouldn't. So I started this thing with FP&L, and I thought that it was EMS. I read quite a bit about it. But more I studied on, more I learned on even since then, was that it was called errant ground currents, straight ground currents. And it's due to the way that the electricity finds its way. When you see that ground rod goes in the ground, well, it doesn't go in the ground, it follows the ground, the path of least resistance back to the transformer. And what happens is well, back to, I told them I had this problem, and they went, no, there's no way that those power lines are causing power to come in your house. And I said, well, there's a ground rod there, there's a ground rod here. So finally, after about 6 months deal, I got them to come out, and they opened up the meter can, and they put the volt thing on top of the thing, and on the bottom said, here's the voltage going into your house. Now we're going to show you why you don't have voltage. They pulled the meter out, the guy puts the thing on there, his eyes get big. Well, I still have power. And so I said, well, what about that? Is that still a theory? I said, we'll have to get back. And never heard from him again. And never talked this thing back again. So it's just that where we live out there, what causes the ionization you were talking about earlier, well, part of that is caused from these straight ground currents. And what it does, it affects one's cells, electrochemically. And where we live out there is that you could look about anywhere you want in the state of Florida, and you would never find 18,000 acres that are divided up like farmland. I mean, we have a common canal system, usually within 2 lots apart from each other, tied into an even larger canal system. And what happens is, with the ionization gets greater, is when the electrical infrastructure gets older, starts breaking down, or you have an increase in demand. Well, we all know that we've had a large increase in demand. and there are new power lines and things going in out there, but a lot of the system is still old. So I guess my question is, are you looking at conservation and straight ground currents?
I've heard similar things from other people in the community who have lived near power lines about straight currents and the potential for them to cause some harm. So it's something we've considered.
Well, I brought you some studies, and it's not, I'm not referring to necessarily high transmission lines, even though our problem did get worse with Turkey from the new power plant fire out there. But it's honestly what's called a conductive plumbing through the house.
Okay, I'd be happy if you have a copy for me. I'd really appreciate it if you leave with me, and I'd be happy to take a look at it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate y'all being here.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being here, supporting us. My name is Madeline. We lived in the Acreage about 3.5 years. There's certain health issues that I know friends have, their pets have had. My question is regarding the environmental, legally, can we now say we have an environmental problem? Not an environmental investigation, an environmental problem in our area, with the results that we have so far?
I think that is a fair characterization, because as I mentioned earlier, and somebody mentioned it again in one of their questions, is what is the acceptable level of radiation in groundwater? It's 0.
Well, mine is 0. I mean.
Well, that's what it should be in everybody's well in the community, and unfortunately, it's not.
I don't know what's in my well, but I'm saying acceptable should be 0.
Acceptable is 0.
Correct.
And so the levels that were documented by DEP and the levels that we've seen in our testing are well above 0.
So it's fair to say that
I think it's fair to say that that's an environmental problem.
Okay, so it's not an environmental investigation, it is an environmental problem in the area.
Which requires further investigation.
Right, which requires further investigation.
I guess it's both.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
There's one other thing to consider here, which is that although Florida is a state that's racked with hotspots and naturally occurring radioactivity, it is not replete with these sort of cancer clusters. So in the sense that we know we have an area where we have a highly, highly elevated rate of pediatric brain tumors. There are incidences of at least a few different very rare cancers which you wouldn't expect to have one of each of those in your community, and you have multiple of all of them. And you have levels of radiation, and there is very likely non-man or non-natural explanations for the kinds of radiation we're seeing. You can say that there is an environmental problem, which requires further investigation.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Pam, and I have 3 children, 16, 13, and 4. When I was pregnant with my 4-year-old, he's the only child who was born in Waxahachie. I had an amnio because I was a little old, and they told me that he had created his own chromosome 22 that did not recognize anybody in my family. Nobody knew anything about it other than the fact that chromosome 21 was Down syndrome, but 22 was like Pandora's box. They had no idea what was wrong with him. There was a team of doctors there when he was born. As of this time, there isn't anything obviously wrong with him, but they did tell me that it was a bit strange and a bit odd, and that either he will develop a disease, either by an organ problem or a disease that he's brought into our family that he didn't get from myself or my husband. None of the doctors know at all what is wrong or what could be wrong or whether he will have the disease or pass the disease on to his offspring when he gets married. A lot of people here, I think, mostly think that cancers come from their family and that, you know, when you get sick and you get cancer of any kind, that it definitely comes from a family member or something that you have gotten from a parent. In my case, right now, I have to say thank God to myself that nobody that I know of in my family is sick. But I have to tell people here that I left Waxahachie. I left over the weekend. I picked up my 5 family members with my husband. And maybe there are people in here that are going to think that I'm crazy or that I'm a coward. But I have to tell all of you that when you stand here and you look at yourselves and you wonder to yourself, what can you do for your kids? I don't want my 4-year-old to grow up and say, how did you stay there? We're sick or not sick. How did you stay there knowing that we could have gotten sick or we got sick and you kept stay there and drinking the water and showering and brushing your teeth? I have to say that I'm here tonight and I live about 5 minutes from here and it was not hard to do. I cannot replace my children, but I can replace a house. I don't need that pile of dirt. I lived there 7 years. And I do feel bad for everybody who was here who was having a hard time leaving. But I have to say, if you have sick children, if you don't have sick children, if you have sick family members, be an advocate for your family. You can hire these people and fight from somewhere else. You don't have to stay there. I had an above-ground pool. I swam with my family in that above-ground pool, and we took it out the day we moved out. We tried to sell it to somebody. It was supposed to make it 15 years, and it was rotted to the bone when we took it down. We couldn't even sell it. So when this gentleman up here talks about the water can contaminate your pools and get in your family's bodies, it's true. So, you know, if you're having a hard time sleeping, listen to me. Everybody on my block, nobody's left. Nobody said goodbye to me. Everybody thought I was a loser. But I can put my head on the pillow at night and know that if somebody in my family is sick, I'll deal with it from somewhere else. Not from out there, and these people are the people who can help you deal with it. Thank you for sharing.
Hi, my name is Renee. I also thank you for being here as well. I know that you guys are planning on doing further testing, and I know that we are very concerned with the wells in our home. But I wanted to know, is our kids safe in their schools? Are you guys going to plan on doing any testing in the schools? I know the DEP has done some testing in the grounds of the schools, but are you guys planning on doing any testing, further testing in the schools to make sure that there is going to be zero contamination?
I can say that it's something we would consider. I can't make you a hard promise. What we do in these kinds of investigations is follow the evidence and follow the facts. And if there was reason to believe that there was an exposure that was related to a school, we would do whatever we could to try to test in there. That's what we do. So I can't, make you a promise that says, yes, we'll test a school, or no, we would never test a school. Our methodology is to try to follow the evidence, kind of wherever that leads us. So that's an answer.
So does any evidence lead you to further test the schools as of right now?
As of right now, I have not seen evidence that would lead me from the kinds of factors we're looking at to test the schools further.
Okay, thank you.
The thing I wanted to add is in some communities, we have to get permission from the school. And we've been denied permission, not here, but many places we've gone, the superintendent has said no. They can't deny it to your public health department. So if you want your school tested, we would have to ask permission, but one of the things you could do with your politicians is ask for them to put pressure on the schools to get the Department of Health or DEP, or have the school itself pay to get the water tested. So even if we wanted to test it, I can't guarantee they'd let us.
Okay, so more or less like have the parents raise like a petition or something?
At a PTA meeting or something, I could even raise it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Good evening. My name is Shirley Rosenberg. Thank you for coming this evening. And I happen to be born and raised here. I lived here my whole life and raised all my children, and my grandchildren are local as well. A couple of things I'd like to address. One of them is I'd like you to know that in Lantana, I used to live in a community called Homeland, also for many years on a septic and well. And I was also near an ag area. And one of the things that we did was we put an outfall in because we were on wells and wanted to protect our groundwater. So we put outfalls in to try to protect our water from the runoff from the vegetation in the ag area. of water on that landfill. And that plume happened to travel southeast, which was, of course, not my direction, but it did travel southeast. And there was a housing development there called, I believe, Tropical Country Estates. And the county did go in and give them public water when they found that contamination there. So that might help in helping us to get it, saying that you've done it for them. If we can prove it, maybe you can do it for us, okay? That was before I lived in that location. I believe that was maybe in the 80s that they gave them the water, the early 80s, but I'm not positive. And the landfill was from the 60s sometime. Also, I'd like to make a point that my home happens to be in the middle of the cluster, and there is a canal, a very wide canal that sits about a block from my home. And according to the maps that I read, that canal is actually a canal that supplies water to the Palm Beach County water system. And my concern is this: if it is doing that, then I feel Palm Beach County water should be testing that water to know how to treat that water for the city and the county. And if they are, then in fact they should know what's in that water before they're treating it. So I'm concerned that they have information that maybe we should be able to use, or maybe they should be forthright in giving us, because they should be testing those wells, and they are using those wells for water. Another point I would like to make: Pratt Whitney, I hope you look into more locations than just the location they're at. Pratt Whitney many years ago also had a location over on Burns Road in Palm Beach Gardens, and I think you could find out that they also had to do a cleanup on that property from Pratt Whitney being there as well. So I hope you look at not just the location in the acreage, but I think it's very important that you look at other locations that they have their business as well. And I just want to make one other point, that I've been on wells for many, many years, and not just in the acreage. And I know rain can even be a factor to the quality of water. I know dredging can be a factor to the quality of water. I want to know if a factor here is people that dug.
Hi, my name is Nelson Graham. I've lived in the acreage for 5 years. I just had my well waters tested privately, and unfortunately, my drinking water came out at 5.8 for Radium 226, and my irrigation came at 0.4. So I'm like with Pam, I'm leaving. I can't risk, I have 3 small children. So just, I would suggest to all of you to get your water tested privately and find out what your recourse is.
Can you tell us more about this?
She's testing some water. My cousin's a firefighter, so she's testing a lot of the firefighters that are out there, and she tested our water. She also came out with a Geiger machine and tested that. But just to know that 0 radiation, that's what I want, and unfortunately I have 5.8. We're going to do the system modification just to last a few months, but I don't think even when we do that, in the long run, that I'm never going to feel safe, to have my children there.
There's one just procedurally important point here that needs to be discussed, which is that if you all find people to test your water on your own, and then you decide that you see something you don't like there, and you become a part of a lawsuit, you want to sue for property value loss or stigma value damage or any of those things, your own tests you contract for with a contractor are not under attorney-client privilege. If you have an attorney and the attorney directs you to get your water tested, those are privileged. So you need to be aware of that, because even if you move out, but you had to sell your property at a loss and it's one day causally connected to somebody else's bad act, you want that information protected, or I don't think you would.
Yeah, well, we already have a lawyer working with us, and we are going to get another, second opinion, and we are going to get, tested again, just, to verify.
The point that Mara is making, though, is that if you want to have private testing done, there is an advantage to having that private testing done at the direction of and under the supervision of your attorney. So those of you who are considering that should sequence those events by securing legal counsel first, discussing what you want to do with your lawyer, and having the lawyer direct the private testing. It's an additional level of protection.
Will you be doing that? If I don't go with that lawyer, the first lawyer we got, would you guys be directing us to someone to test our waters?
If any of our clients come to us and tell us that they want private testing done, we'll certainly cooperate with them. help them to have that testing conducted in a way that protects the confidentiality of the test results unless and until we're ready to have them released.
Okay, I'll call you tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Rob Siegel. I have family and friends throughout the Acreage. I've been staying at the Acreage. I'm mostly involved in testing and finding levels. One of the first things you said to us is to join together, share information, exchange. The way the protocol is set up for the sampling is it's a quarterly sample. It's an average over a year, which leads me to believe there's potential spikes. So the more information is shared, how high a spike, how high a level have been found, will help determine the potential filtration that's needed. Are you able to say what highest level you found? Can you share information?
With our clients. That's one of those questions that I referenced earlier that would be inappropriate to answer in the context of a public meeting. But it's certainly information that we will be sharing with our clients.
Yeah, what I'm directing to is what the potential peak is, not who the client is, where the location is. So what can we potentially expect? What should we anticipate? How should we protect ourselves?
Those are the kinds of details that will be available, but not in the context of a public meeting.
Well, they're all immediate contact, and the sooner they can make a change, the sooner they can learn what potential impact there is, the sooner they can make changes.
Thank you. Last question.
Yeah, hello. Hi. My name is Howard Dean. I'm with the Florida Eco Network, and I didn't know if people here are aware that there's a phenomenon called chemtrails, where the military is spraying chemicals in the air to reflect the sun for global warming. They're putting 10 million metric tons of chemicals in the air to reflect 1 to 2% of the sun, and that's their mandate for global warming. So if you want to know more about that, we have the Florida Eco Network, and the documentary, it's up on YouTube, and I have some cards here for people as they're leaving. Chemicals we're finding spiking levels of rainwater, and also I had to move from California because the levels were so high there. I went to Hawaii, and I came back to Florida because my mother was transitioning from lung cancer, and she wasn't smoking. My brother died of cancer. My brother's wife died of cancer here last year also. So two of my family members, my mother and my brother's wife, died of cancer here in Palm Beach. And I wanted to, connect with you all here. I'm going to New York next week to meet with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at the NRDC to help stop, to muzzle these planes. There's like 500 of these military tanker planes going around. I wonder if you have any information, have you known about this? And if you would just look at the air quality, of how the quality of the chemicals coming down from the air, not just what's coming up from the ground.
Sir, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. Thanks. Thank you all for coming.
I'm sorry for saying, I did ask you a question and I didn't get an answer to. And that was, I wanted to know if the aeration, if this going into the air of us getting all the watering of the lawn and the washing of the houses and the cars and everything going on out there is going to be potentially a factor for us too.
The question is whether irrigation or watering the lawn would be a significant, potentially significant exposure to radioactivity in the water. The best answer I give you is possibly. It wouldn't be the first place where I would look at risk. Exposure and inhalation typically is greatest in more confined areas, but I couldn't say it would not be a factor at all. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.